Hello and welcome. This is the 23rd discussion from the smart world around us, brought to you by Smart-EDU Hub. Today, we're diving into a really interesting article called E-Government 3.0, an AI model to use for enhanced local democracies, by Kotlin Vrabia. And of course, if you want to read the whole thing for yourself, we've got a link to the full article down in the description.
So let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like your complaint to the city just disappeared? You know, you report a pothole or a broken streetlight, you do your civic duty, and then nothing. Just crickets. It feels like your message got sucked into a giant black hole, right? Well, it turns out you're not just imagining things.
All right, so let's actually take a look inside this government black hole. Because this isn't just about our feelings of frustration. It's a very real, massive logistical problem for local governments.
Take a look at this number, 12,935. What is that? Well, that's how many petitions were filed in just 1 year in the city of Brașov, Romania. We're talking almost 13,000 individual requests, complaints, and suggestions. That single number, it just perfectly sums up the absolute data tsunami that local governments are trying to deal with every single day. And where is this flood of requests actually coming from? Well, if you look at the breakdown here, it's pretty clear. Smartphones are the big one, making up the vast majority of all these petitions. Now, on one hand, that's great, right? It's easier than ever for us to get in touch. But on the other hand, it's just completely swamping the old school systems that city halls are trying to use. So you can probably guess what happens next. This flood of requests, it creates these insane delays and huge backlogs for city workers. And what does that do? It erodes our trust. Every time a message goes unanswered, that trust between us and our local government takes a little hit. So the big question is, what's the solution?
And that brings us to the core idea of this whole paper. It's something called E-Government 3.0. And look, this isn't just some small update or a new website. The idea here is that this is the next evolution in how our governments work.
To really get what 3.0 is, it helps to see where we've been. You had e-government 1.0, which was basically just putting forms online, kind of like a digital brochure. Then came 2.0, which was all about using social media and being more interactive. But e-government 3.0, well, that's a whole different ballgame.
So what is it? Simply put, e-government 3.0 is all about using new technologies, especially artificial intelligence, to totally transform how public services are delivered. The idea isn't just to have a better website, it's to change the entire engine room of government, making it smarter and way more responsive by using AI.
Okay, that sounds pretty ambitious. So let's bring this back down to earth and look at a real-world example. The study proposes using a very specific AI model to tackle that exact problem we talked about earlier, that massive flood of citizen petitions.
So how can AI actually help with all these petitions? Well, think of it as a super smart assistant for public servants. It can instantly summarize and sort through all the incoming requests. It can fire off automated responses to the simple, routine questions. It can even use something called sentiment analysis to spot the really urgent or angry messages that need a human to look at them, like right now. It can filter them to make sure the person is even eligible to make the request, and this is a big one, it can do what's called a compare and comply check, making sure that any reply the government sends is actually correct and follows the law.
Okay, this all sounds pretty amazing, but how does the AI actually think? You know, how does it go from a citizen's angry message about trash pickup to a useful action? Let's peek under the hood a little bit.
It really boils down to a three-step pipeline. First, the messy input data gets cleaned up. The system gets rid of punctuation, fixes typos, all that good stuff. Then, the AI gets to work analyzing the text, looking for patterns to figure out what the petition is about and how urgent it is. And finally, step 3, it takes action. Based on its analysis, it either decides to send an automated response itself, or, if it's tricky, it escalates it to a human.
Now, the real magic is in how this AI learns. It's not like someone programmed a million rules into it. Instead, it uses something called supervised learning. Basically, the researchers fed it thousands and thousands of past petitions and showed it exactly how the human experts handled each one. So the AI learns by observing the humans. It's kind of like a trainee watching the pros do their job over and over again until it figures out the patterns.
And all that learning leads to two different kinds of AI actions. On one hand, you have a soft action. This is when the AI knows a human needs to step in. So it flags the petition, but it also does all the homework first, pulling up relevant laws and info to make the human's job easier. Then you have the strong action. This is when the AI is super confident it knows what to do and just handles the whole thing itself, from generating a response to even having a conversation. It's a system that knows when to help and when to take charge.
So, does all this actually lead to a smarter government and happier citizens? I mean, the theory sounds great, but does it work in the real world? And what does it mean to have an AI handling these kinds of communications? Let's look at the results.
What they found is this really interesting trade-off between speed and accuracy. You can see here, one model, the decision tree, was blazing fast. It could process a petition in just 2 seconds. But another model, the gradient-boosted tree, was way more accurate, making fewer mistakes. So a city gets to choose what's more important to them, a super fast response or a super accurate one.
But there's a potential catch here, a really cool idea from economics called the Jevons paradox. Think about it. What happens when you make it super easy and efficient for people to contact the city and get a quick response? Well, they're probably going to contact the city more often. So the system's own success could create even more work, maybe even canceling out some of the efficiency gains. It's a classic be careful what you wish for scenario.
And really, this all points to a much bigger picture, which is summed up perfectly by this quote from Andrew Ng that's in the paper. AI is the new electricity. A century ago, electricity completely changed every single industry. The argument here is that AI is about to do the exact same thing today, to everything, including how our local governments run.
Which leaves us with this one last really big question to think about. Forget the speed and the efficiency for a second. Could a system like this, one that gives you a fast, accurate, and genuinely helpful response, actually start to fix that bigger problem we began with? Could AI really help rebuild the trust between citizens and their government?
It's a huge question and one we're definitely going to be grappling with more and more. So with that, we'll say goodbye, and hey, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Smart Education Hub channel to be the first to enjoy new podcasts. Also, remember that a link to the article we discussed today can be found in the description below. Thanks for tuning in.